What's up? So today I want to talk about childcare costs, and my God, it is expensive. So my name is Tony Chan, single dad of two. I'm just documenting my life and my thoughts. So after separation, which was about 3 years ago, I just knew that I was gonna have a ton of expenses that I would have to pay on my own, right? And I'm talking about when I separated, I was only making I think 60K per year, and now it's a lot more. And I won't give that details, but in the beginning, like I only was making 60K, so I had to figure out, okay, is that enough money to pay for childcare? Because my kids were 5 and 2 at the time, and they were in daycare daycare was super expensive. My God, it was at least 17 to 25K per year. That's more than my rent, right? And so I just knew, I already felt this huge pressure on my shoulder that I'm gonna have to pay for a lot of different things. And so that was one of the first things that I was like, uh-oh, what do I need to do? I need to pay for rent by myself. I need to pay for all the groceries by myself. I need to pay for all the school supplies and the kids' supplies. And then, of course, I got to pay for daycare. So one of the first things I did, of course, is I budget. Like I really try to figure out exactly where all my money is going after separation. What's all the money that's being left over? And then what's all my money that I need to pay for when I moved into a new apartment. And the new apartment was just like a regular studio, one bedroom. I think it was like between 500 to 600 square feet, or maybe it was 700. I can't remember, but it was definitely a change, right? Because beforehand, I was living in a very big 2 bedroom apartment, and now it's just a one tiny bedroom. And I was sleeping on the floor while the kids were like sleeping on a twin size mattress. And it was a very different scenery, obviously. But today I just really want to focus on just the cost of everything and how everything just gotten more expensive. So originally I put the kids in a daycare that mostly spoke Spanish, all right? And the reason was because it was the cheapest daycare around. It was the most affordable. And because it was the most affordable, I put the kids in there. And on the very first day, one of my kids threw up because they ate beans, and I guess they're not used to that type of food. And when I got there to go pick up the kids, like there was just beans all over the ground. So I guess they wanted me to see what happened. And I was like, all right, well, that sucks on the first day of daycare. And then, of course, the bigger problem was that everybody was speaking mostly Spanish. It was all Spanish, 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 which also I don't have no problem about, but I want my kids to learn English, not Spanish. Um, and then on top of that, like the playground was so tiny. It was like a very, very tiny hallway, right? And so ultimately, like I decided to eventually take the kids out because number one, they actually kept increasing the prices of the daycare because the economy was bad and everybody was increasing the prices. And on top of that, like everybody was speaking Spanish. Like I did not want my kids to learn that. Like there was hardly, as far as I know, any English spoken. And so my kids were confused or they didn't know what was going on. And my oldest kid was just didn't know what was happening in the class because everybody was speaking mostly Spanish. And that was her complaint too. And the teachers and the people that were all nice and great. It just didn't fit us, right? So I decided to put them in a new daycare. And the new daycare was way more expensive than the original one. Like way more, I think it was like double to triple the price. And the reason why I decided to put them in this one is because number one, they're highly rated. Number two, they had cameras and stuff like that. So it was more security based. I get to see, what was going on and what we're doing. The teachers, they would update me every now and then on what the kids were doing. And they had a much bigger playground and a play area, like a way bigger. So, that's why it would cost so much more money. And I was paying for both kids. And I had to figure out how to pay for all of that. And luckily, because I did the budgeting and I saw like the leftover money I had, basically like the surplus of money I had after paying all the essentials, like after paying the rent, paying the utility, paying for grocery, paying for gas, I still had a good amount of money left over because I had no debt and I don't really go out much or spend money on anything, or at least I stopped doing those things and I just use the rest of the money to pay for the kids. And that's like one of my main goals was just to make sure the kids are taken care of and that they are surrounded by good things and that they are going to the best schools and stuff like that. And that is my duty as their dad. And I have no problem spending money on that. It's just more of I want to make sure that my money is spent on something that is worthwhile, right? So this daycare was definitely worth it, and they still go to this daycare during the summer. Um, but yeah, it was just super expensive. Now, what gets me mad is not the daycare, but it's the child tax credit. They barely give you any money back putting their kids in daycare. Like, I do think that there should be at least more programs for people at least making 60K, or at least like, I know there are programs but for very low income people, but at least like increase the income limit or something like that, because daycare is super expensive. Even the current daycare I went to, they constantly were increasing the prices as well. And I was like, what am I doing? So one of the ways, of course, to combat the inflation or the economy was to increase my career, was to make more money. That was my number one goal. How can I make more money to spend on the kids and make sure that they're well taken care of? So one of the first things I did after separation was I asked my boss to give me more responsibilities, to give me more projects. And because of that, I learned new skills and I was able to complete the projects timely and early, actually. And within a year, or I think within 6 months, I was able to get a huge promotion. That was like a huge jump in my income. And I was like, dang, that was awesome, right? And then a year after that, I got bonuses. And then a year after that, I got even more money and I cashed out stocks and stuff like that. Like, every time I set my mind to making more money, I made more money. It's crazy, right? And I did not like fall into despair and started playing video games, and actually like got rid of my video games. So that's the first thing I also did after separation, where I gave all my video games to my family members. So I took away all the distractions so that I could focus on making more money. So, and video games are like pretty much my only hobby that I love doing, and I got rid of that. I had to, and I still to this day, I don't really play video games as much anymore. So it was worth doing it so that I could focus on increasing my career to make more money. And now I'm making more money than I've ever did before. And that's because like I changed my lifestyle. I had to change my lifestyle after becoming a single dad. I had to get rid of things that were holding me down. Luckily, I never drank before. I don't really smoke or anything like that. I don't do drugs in general. So it was just the video games. That was like my main thing that I had to stop doing because it was just eating up all my time. Like video games, we all know it's super addictive. With all the new technology, with all the better graphics and better gameplays and X, Y, and Z, like it's just absolutely addictive. So I had to get rid of it, and I got it completely out of my house. My family were so happy when they got new consoles and stuff like that. I'm talking about the PS5. I'm talking about the Xbox Series X. I'm talking about the Nintendo Switch. Even my PC, I gave everything away. I was really committed to being the best dad possible, and so I got rid of all these things. And even now, I got rid of my TV because me and my kids used to watch a lot of TV. I got rid of my 65-inch TV and I got rid of my 55-inch TV. These are high quality, great TVs that I spent thousands of dollars on. And I got rid of them too because I got tired of all the distractions. And I started to feel guilty when I get distracted. So when I started playing games or when I watch TV, I felt this huge guilt that, I should have been working on building my skills. I should have been working on making more money. I should have been working on just something that are more asset driven. All right, like how can I make more money? So another way I increase my income is to invest in stocks where it has a rate of return of at least 8%. So I'm always trying to find ways to make more money so I can pay for all these things that cost a lot of money, right? Kids are super expensive, and daycare being like the most expensive one. Now, I have found out that there are more local type of daycares. It's not really like a daycare, but it's like a local place where kids go, and it's much cheaper, and it's a part of the elementary school. So I'm trying to figure out new ways to enroll my kids that are not expensive daycares, right? But I do like the daycare that they are in, or that now they usually just go to the summer now because now they are in elementary school. But to me, it was worth it. Like the daycare, to me, it was a huge, drastic difference when I took them from the Spanish daycare to the more expensive daycare, obviously, right? Because number one, they spoke more English. Number two is like they had, I guess, a higher standard for curriculum. So they were learning a lot more things. They were creating a lot more things. They had a bigger playground, which allowed them to run around and have fun. And on top of that, like I really get to see what my kids were doing, because obviously I worry about my kids safely and I want to make sure that they are well taken care of. And so like whenever I got updates or whenever I get to look at the camera and see them playing and having fun, that gives me good joy. Like I get really happy when I know that my kids are well taken care of and that they are having fun and that they're learning. My kids got smarter after that daycare, right? Because it's good for them to be around other kids. I did not want them to stay home with me, right? Because I have to work and I cannot play with them all the time. And so they need to be around other kids. And so daycare is to me the best place to do that. And I didn't really have a close family members here that has their own kids. So like there's just no one for them to play with. So the next best option is the daycare, which was very expensive, but I think worth the cost. And so, other childcare costs could be their school supplies. They always need new clothes. They always need new supplies. They always need new shirts and choir shirts and stuff like that. Those are not as expensive. I think because I pay for daycare and how much expensive it is, like paying for these other things like for their school, it's not as bad, or it's just tiny in comparison to the daycare cost. But I do think daycare is definitely worth it instead of keeping the kids home. Like I think if the kids were home with me during that time, I think they would have been, number one, really bored. Number two, I cannot concentrate if they're always around me and they always want to play with me. And they'll also like they want to play with their dad. And so to me, it was worth it. So that's how I see childcare costs and especially daycare being the most expensive. I would definitely put them in daycare again. I just think it's worth it, especially during the summer or during the winter breaks. It's that they need to socialize with other kids. They love to be around their friends. Like my kids are still friends with people they have met in daycare. And they go to the same school with each other as well. So yeah, to me, daycare is definitely worth it. Very expensive, but that's why I'm working hard. I use that as fuel to increase my income. Like I'm telling you, every single year, I always think about how can I give my kids the best. And I use that as fuel to like keep making more money, making more money. And I still use that as fuel. So hopefully that helped. That's my story. My name is Tony Chan. Like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And check out this end screen video if you want to look at more of my journey.